Hold on. Hold on. Browns versus Bengals. Week 1, 2023 NFL season. Hold on. We got another prediction here. Ultimate Game and TV says 24-14 Bengals. We got our first Bengals pick. We shall see. If the Bengals win this game, it's because Deshaun Watson didn't do his job, and it's because the Browns defensive line ain't do their job. And I think this is a good prediction of that. The Bengals score 3 touchdowns, 1 field goal, and the Browns only score like 2 touchdowns. That would be how the game would go. Or maybe the Browns lose in the shootout or something. But I think that if the Bengals were to win, I think that's a realistic one. But who wins this game, everybody? What's my prediction? Week 1, 2023 of the regular season, Browns versus Bengals, AFC North rivalry. I'm taking the Browns 31-23. Here's why I think the Browns win this game. Deshaun Watson versus the Bengals secondary, the Browns defensive line versus the Bengals offensive line. I think the Browns will be able to kind of contain DJ Reader more than they did last game. And I think Nick Chubb is going to contribute well in this one. And I think the Browns being able to get pressure on Joe Burrow will really allow man coverage to look better for them. And if Juan Thornhill can't go, I'm confident in Rodney McLeod being able to hold it down. But let's get more in depth into that. The Browns are going to win this game because the defensive line of Cleveland is just a bad matchup for Cincinnati. The Browns have 3 good speed rushers. They've got Zadarius Smith, they've got Myles Garrett, and Agbo Okoronkwo with defensive tackles in the middle that can handle anything you want them to handle. Knowing that Orlando Brown is not good versus speed rushers when the Browns have 3 good speed rushers, and knowing that Jonah Williams, who was on the left side last year, is moving to the right side, which is really hard for tackles to do, knowing this is his first game doing that, knowing he had a bad go with Myles Garrett when he was on the left side. Now he's in a vulnerable position on the right side and is going versus Myles Garrett again when he's in a new position, which is hard to do as a tackle going from left to right or right to left. It's going to cause problem for the Bengals offensively on their offensive line because Myles Garrett is going to take advantage of Jonah Williams like he always has. Orlando Brown is going to have a problem with the Browns speed rushers, which they have an abundance of, because Orlando Brown does not do good versus speed rushers. That's going to cause Joe Burrow to get behind the sticks a lot. Is going to force the Bengals to really make out of structure plays. That's going to have them miss out on the big plays that'll be needed to keep up with the Browns in this game, because I think Deshaun Watson will be able to really do well versus a mid-Bengals secondary. Like I said, not as bad as everyone thinks it is, but is mid because they lost their 2 best safeties. And Chidobe Awuzie is his first game back from injury. So how is he going to do guarding Amari Cooper? What's his snap count going to be looking like? But I think it's going to be hard for the Bengals to keep up with the Browns in this game because they'll be forced to make plays out of structure, or they're going to get behind the sticks a lot because their tackles are going to force them to do that. Myles Garrett's going to have 2.5 sacks. Zadarius Smith probably going to have like 1 sack. The Browns as a team are probably going to have like 5 sacks and going to have a lot of pressures on Joe Burrow in this game just because the matchup problem on the Browns defensive line and the Bengals offensive line is bad. And that's going to limit what the Bengals can do best. And it's what's been the problem for the Bengals whenever they have matched up with the Browns and the Browns have won. Now, offensively for the Browns, I think Nick Chubb's going to have a nice maybe 80 to 100-yard day. I think the Browns have a good plan now and good personnel of attacking DJ Reader. If they do run towards DJ Reader, I think they're good. With Ethan Pasha being there now, he wasn't able to do that in the last game. So Ethan Pasha is going to be there to kind of limit what DJ Reader can do. But I think the Browns offensive line and the Browns defensive line wins them this game. Already talked about the defensive line, but here's why the Browns offensive line wins them this game. Although people have concerns about Jedrick Wills, he has always held up well versus Trey Hendrickson. He has always held up well versus Sam Hubbard, and Joseph Osai is out for the Bengals in this game. Just knowing what else the Browns offensive line is good at when it comes to their personnel, I think they bode well in this game, and I think they're going to give Deshaun Watson time to dial it up and put pressure on the Bengals passing game to make plays. And I don't believe the Bengals passing game will be able to make that many plays because their offensive line is going to be at a disadvantage. But yeah, Deshaun Watson is going to have a good game just because of the secondary matchup and because his offensive line will be able to get the job done. And it's going to be hard for the Bengals to stop Nick Chubb when you want to put effort on stopping the Browns' passing game, which I think is going to be really good in this game. So Nick Chubb is going to do well versus some non-stacked boxes, especially later in this game. Why do I think the Browns win this game? Their defensive line versus the Bengals offensive line. I think the man coverage with the Browns corners versus the Bengals wide receivers is going to hold up well because the Browns will really be able to make it easier on the corners by getting pressure. And then I really do think that Deshaun Watson is going to have a good game in this one, and that's going to lead to Nick Chubb benefiting off of it all, everyone. And the Browns are at home. So you got home field advantage. I think this is a team that knows they can win in week 1 now since they got that monkey off their back last year. I think the Bengals are in trouble here just because they have matchup problems. They have a defensive line that has eaten up their offensive line in the past and has a chance to do it again. And the reason they have lost versus the Browns before in the past is because their offensive line gets eaten up by the Browns defensive line. And I just think it's so crucial to the Browns in this matchup because Orlando Brown does not do well versus the type of edge rushers that the Browns have. Jonah Williams is really going to struggle versus Myles Garrett again. I think the Browns need to take advantage of that. I think it's going to be a Browns win. 31-23 is going to be a 2-score game. And I think being at home, knowing what Jamar Chase said about this team, I think it's going to fire them up. And I think the Browns win this game 23-31 at home and start the season off 1-0